Welcome, Chris McCarthy. How's it going,
Hello,
mate?
how you doing? Yeah,
Yeah,
not
it's
too bad.
good.
Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm quite excited about having you on because it's so often it's so easy to pick drivers, and
Yeah,
I'm not saying you're not a driver, but you work in commentary, you've done the media game, so you have like a different perspective on the sport, which I think is really valuable.
yeah, yeah. It's been really good being involved in that way. Obviously, I used to race at one stage for about 5 years, and then you know, because of epilepsy, I had to take a step back from it, and this is kind of how I managed to stay in the sport. So I think everyone that can't go on to compete always manages to find a way. I was terrible with tools, so this was basically my way of staying in it.
Yeah, I can relate to that somewhat. I wasn't. It wasn't a medical condition that stopped me. It was just money and not being that fast. So I wanted to sort of. I have to start like with. Obviously, you're involved in Karting Magazine, and from my perspective, I guess we share a kind of like the reason I want you on is like a similar perspective. You've experienced karting from a different point of view. And what did you
Yeah.
learn through that experience when you were, doing Karting Magazine and looking for articles and interest? Like, what was the main thing you learned through that whole process?
Um, it was a good experience. I mean, I started working there in 2015. I just started commentating at the time, and I got asked to do an article. Uh, I got given the opportunity to do one, and it was on Alex Quinn. We call it the Italian job, and it made the front cover. And then from there, I went to doing about 30 pages an issue. And in terms of what I learned, I just met a lot of people, I'd say, in the sport. And I liked, finding out more about the drivers, about their personalities. One thing I wanted to try and do was push the Brits as much as possible. So if we were reporting on European racing, where are the Brits finishing, and really support them as much as possible, because I don't think for a time they got that support they deserved. If say Fabian Federer won a race, but then Jordan Lennox Lamb finished fourth, that would be the story I would push. For example, it would be we almost made the podium. But yeah, I just learned a lot about the drivers. Going into paddocks and all of a sudden knowing a lot of people was a really different experience, because before I'd walk into a paddock and no one would really know me, and then it went for going in, and I wouldn't really get to watch any racing because I'd be going around chatting to people. But learning about the drivers and what goes into the work they have to get to the top level is something I learned a lot about, and it is almost a shame I didn't have that experience when I was racing, because it would have been very valuable.
So I think what you've described there is like articulating the story of the drivers, which
Yes, yeah,
I think is quite important, especially from like a media perspective and a sort of growth of the sport perspective. There's different ways you can categorise growth in sport. You can do it by spectators or competitors, and obviously kart racing is way more heavily competitor based. But it
yeah,
seems like from my perspective, we do seem to lack the ability to create engaging stories for people to follow. And
yeah,
obviously, you were trying that with Karting Magazine, and I think now, because we don't. I mean, I hope you don't mind me saying this. Like in the UK, we don't. I don't include myself as a media person really now. We don't have Karting Magazine anymore. We don't have any real tangible media entity, I guess, pushing the sport.
yeah,
And I just feel like for drivers, there's an opportunity there where they can take up the mantle.
yeah.
I know you're working with a couple of drivers. So is that something you've been pushing? Because I know a couple of your drivers have been popping up on podcasts and stuff, and I think that's like an incremental step towards pushing the drivers a little bit forward.
Yeah, that was one thing that came through working with the magazine. I never really learnt journalism at all. I just kind of learned it on the job. But the amount I learned from the guy who was running Karting Magazine when I started there, I was able to work with drivers, and I found that, you know, pushing drivers on the promotional side is a big thing. And not a lot of people know how to do it very well. It's an extra, you know, there's so much that goes into karting already. You're so busy on the weekends that really is pushed to one side. I think you've got to be very good and got to put in a lot of hard work to get a profile for yourself. But you know, with Karting Magazine, it was, you know, we had to treat karting as a sport, as its own entity. And that's why I came up with the idea. I was on a tube, and I went to the editor of the mag and said, let's do an awards. And I don't think it had ever been done before. And we created, you know, this Driver of the Year award. And we did 10 categories, I think it was. We had Driver of the Year, a female driver, a rookie driver, International Driver of the Year. And it was, you know, that was massive. The next year when I ran that on my own, I think we had 250,000 hits to the website in the space of about 18 days. But that was trying to treat the sport in its own entity. You know, these are the best kart drivers in the world. That doesn't necessarily mean these are the 10 that are going to go on to do something. That just means they're the best 10. And working with someone like Callum has been great, because, you know, his goal is to be the best in karting. And he's now doing that. He joined Tony Kart, he got signed by Tony Kart, and then he went and became world champion straight away. So to have those characters, I think, are amazing, because they're the ones that really want to be, yeah, himself, Joe Turney, and the other guys out there. They want to be the best kart drivers in the world. And that was the main thing I tried to do when running the magazine. Just treat it as his own sport, and forget that, you know, this, you know, single seaters or GTs even exist.
I think that's something that, like, I vibe with a lot, because I think, like I've said so many times, I've been really keeping a close eye on the other sports, particularly Supercross, and you have such this, the top riders are the top riders, and there's no questions asked, you know, and they're either doing it themselves, like doing their own promotional stuff, their own videos. Yeah, that's particularly kind of the mid-gridders, I guess. And then the top guys have Red Bull there and Monster, and they're all like, these are the guys that are the nuts. And I feel like I was going to do this in a video, because it sounds like I'm attacking the drivers, but I'm not. I want the drivers to understand what an opportunity they've got, because it's like the market is there for them. It's like they haven't realised that the potential for them to create cool content, get involved in stuff, create a kind of some notoriety around themselves, can change the game quite a lot. Because at the moment, a lot of the young drivers, they all look up to Lewis Hamilton or whoever's doing whatever in F1. And then I look at Danny Curl and I look at Bradshaw and Joe Turney, and I'm going, the Brits are we're really like the nuts at this. But there's no, I'm not going to say no, but the admiration for them. And I think, well, there's a big, wide opportunity, not just for those drivers, for the other drivers as well. Everybody that's involved, like, because I wanted to talk to you, because I think we mentioned before this about you were commentating on Rock the Rio in Las Vegas.
Yes.
And I was watching an onboard of Marion Kremers, and he was just driving about, and I was just watching it, and I had in my voice drivers going, oh, you know, it's really difficult to get sponsorship and people interested, and I was watching this onboard of a night race, and it's like the background is Las Vegas, all lit up at night. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing I can see of any racing at the moment. And I see drivers go to that event, and they don't record it. They don't do any cool videos like, I'm hitting the plane, this is the guy I want to beat, this is Las Vegas, this is mental. It's just like, they go in, they sign on, they come home, and it's like, boys, you don't realise how cool what you're doing is. I don't know what I think we probably agree. I'm preaching to the choir here, but as you've experienced Las Vegas, you get the idea that there's something here that's actually we can work with this.
Yeah, I mean, that was an amazing experience. It came around because it was actually supposed to be live streamed. I think Alpha Live was supposed to do it, and that's how I got put in touch with them. And I was already out in Vegas doing a Gran Turismo event that week, and it just matched up perfectly. I was in Vegas from Sunday to Thursday, and then the guys just said, we'll come over to the Rio Hotel on Thursday and do the event. But I mean, it was an amazing experience. Going to the hotel, then seeing the track. The hotel had actually given us the kind of penthouse suite. which had its own swimming pool for us to just use in the evenings, and we'd go up there and have a great time. And I just thought for a kart driver, it was amazing. I remember seeing, I think, Carol Baz out there, sunglasses on every morning, as you can imagine. He was having a great time. But it was just an amazing experience. And I thought that experience alone would have made a really, really good, a really good video to watch, because that is a race that I don't know any other discipline that gets to do something similar to that. I mean, I think they do a NASCAR race out there, but racing in Vegas is very rare. They do some esports events there, which is good, but the crowd there were amazing. There were so many people coming in to watch it. They'd be in the casino and they'd come out to watch the event, particularly when the gearboxes were on. And the racing was fantastic. I think overall it was just a really, really cool event. And yeah, for a sponsor, that would be a great opportunity. But sadly, that event wasn't streamed. But I know the Supercars one is. So yeah, to go and race in that, commentating on something like that would be amazing as well.
I think that sort of, it hits the nail on the head of like, I mean, I reckon Rock the Rio will be streamed it must be streamed this year, I guess. I mean, there's no.
I hope so, yeah.
It just I say to people, like, karting is good because you can race in a car park in Las Vegas or you can race at Silverstone. Like, how many sports can do that? And I just think, like, obviously, it's one of those things. I just go, this is, if I was 21 again. I think we've got such a potential. Like I go, you've got these young drivers. I'm going to. If you're 18 to 25 and you race karts, this is a golden opportunity for you to really do something that nobody else is doing. And like, obviously, you got involved in Karting Magazine, and that got you opportunities. Like, how many karts have you driven that you wouldn't have driven otherwise?
Well, one of the ones that comes into my head immediately is I got to test with the Tony Kart factory team. That was when the OK in 2016 just got released, and they flew me over there to watch the Winter Cup, which was amazing. I remember walking into that paddock and thinking, this is just a completely different world to Wilton Clubbies, say, that I used to do, or a national championship even. It was just this, and the crowd there, I think there was probably about 10,000 people there watching that race. There were kids jumping over the fence to try and watch the race. And it's a shame that kind of support doesn't exist here as much. But then the next day I got to drive the OK. I was in, I can't remember whose car it was now, but I had Carol Baz as a driver coach, along with Marco Ardigo, and it was a crazy experience. At the end of the day, they actually said to me, "Do you want to go out in Ardigo's KZ?" But there was 33 other KZ drivers there, and I said, "No way! Am I going out on track with 34 of the best world's driving than me? Like probably about 5-6 seconds off the pace. I've never driven one before, so I took up a KZ opportunity with the Jade team at a later stage. But yeah, loads. I mean, I got to drive the Mad Croc, the BRDC F3 car. I was the 5th person to test that. I didn't have a seat actually. They just kind of threw me in. Was like, you don't have one that fits you, sadly. So, but yeah, loads of different karts. The Mac 1 was great. The one with Jade was really good. Yeah, loads. A Ginetta Junior, a Formula Jedi. Yeah, and it was all stuff that I'd go and I tried to turn the magazine into a bit of a review thing. We worked. Mad Croc. It was a good exchange deal. I got to go and test their car. They in return got some analysis of their chassis, and that was something I tried to add to the magazine as I took over.
And that's like, there's a big lesson here, like, because I never tested with a Tony Kart team. They never invited me. I mean, I can't believe why. But because I have a bit more of a temperament, and probably didn't know who I am anyway. But the lesson I've learned, and it's you, it's myself, and a couple of other people, and I get drivers and they often tell me, "Oh, I don't get any opportunities," and it's like I hear it repeated, and I'm like, wait a second. I did the British Championship in 11, where I got my engine supplied, the kart supplied, entries, tyres. All right. I've tested karts that I would never have tested in my life. I've done this, I've done that, I've done this, and half of the stuff I like you, I would have said, "No, I can't be bothered to do that." I think I was offered some X30 racing, and I went, "I don't want to do that." But like, the lesson is like, when you get drivers, and this is what I'm saying, they don't realise that. Okay, so how many wins did you have on your record at that point? They were looking at you going, you're a valuable person. Try this. They looked at me and gone, no, Alan's doing some stuff. I'll invite him. And I'm like, drivers who are good, like the potential's there for you. If someone like me can get stuff and that through just being a bit mouthy and doing videos, what could you do? Like, I think there's a kind of thing in there. Maybe you disagree, and I think you're working with drivers, and I think that's a good thing because I think it's going to slowly change. There's a little bit of what your opinion is. I think car racing seems to cast its shadow on karters, especially once they reach 18. Whereas I'm saying, when you're 18, you need to go on the nuts. Because to me, like Bradshaw, Turney, Curl, they're all like some of the best drivers in the world. I can't speak for Callum, and I can't. Even Danny. You feel like, do they know how good they are? It feels like this car thing casts a shadow over everything. I know you're involved in cars. I don't want to criticise car racing, but as we're talking about karters, what do you think about that?
Like I said, it's its own entity. I've been out there. I remember when I started commentating, my dream gig was CIK, and then going there in 2018, I just thought these guys are unbelievably good. Watching how close it was. I mean, the setups they have there. The KZ drivers are just amazing. I mean, to get to that level takes years and years, decades to get to that kind of level. And so I think when they get to that level, maybe they do. But some people probably don't. I think once you go and win a world championship, say, then you must know how good you are. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I do think that we are very well supported in the international scene. I think in the last 5-6 years, it's just gone up and up and up, and now we're probably at the best that it's ever been in terms of racing in the FIA leagues and WSK series. So that's good to see for the British drivers. And when they then come back and race in the British Champs or Kart Masters, the grid is just unbelievable. And that's then a good opportunity for people who can't afford to do that to then race against someone like Callum Bradshaw or Joe Turney.
Yeah, I think I was watching an old video, I think it was a 2000, because after we chatted with Danny Curley, mentioned the incident at Kart Masters in 17, and I watched it back, and it was like Danny Curl, and then it was Callum Bradshaw, Barnicoat, and then Hodgson. And I'm like, Hodgson's a World Finals winner, a Grand Final winner in Rotax. I'm very specific with names like that.
Yes,
semantics I find very important.
Likewise.
But then you had Danny Curl in first, you had Bradshaw in second. I'm like, so those two are now world champions. Yeah. And it's sort of, I look back on it and go, it's kind of mad when you think about how good the talent pool is. Like, X30 in the UK is phenomenal.
Kart Masters grid is always unbelievable. And Barnicoat, he up to what he's done is amazing. I got to test with him at PFI with Terry Fullerton, and I mean, he absolutely wiped the floor with me. I didn't think I'd be that slow, but it just showed the standards. I mean, it made the article on that one because PFI, I think, is a track you've got to spend a lot of time. You can get within half a second, but that extra half a second takes a long time to reach. And that proved to me just how good the level was, because he was winning at that time. And for someone like me who has 5 years racing to then go back and be as far off the pace as I was, showed that the standard is unbelievable. And if you can race at the front of that, then you're doing something right.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to talk to you about something that obviously I kind of talk about it quite a lot, but you're sort of very heavily involved with it. So last year, you commentated for us at the Karting1 Superkart thing, which I was happy with. I was really happy you did that. So thank you for doing that. I hope it's quite funny.
It was good fun.
With Jack Dex, Jack Dex's incident. He did get.
Is that Donington?
Yeah, Donington. I don't know if you remember.
He ended up last corner.
Yeah. From that, he ended up testing a supercar.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because obviously he posted it up, and the guys that run MS Kart see that he was doing this supercar thing and like put him in a cart, and he loved it.
Yeah.
But that was another lesson in like do stuff, because stuff comes from it. No matter how silly it might sound at the time, because off the back of that, I was being offered superkart tests and everything. So it's like, guys,
Right.
just do stuff. But I wanted to talk about sims because after that, I think it was after that you were on the Le Mans 24-hour crew.
Virtual. Yeah.
And that seemed to me to represent though there had been a lot with iRacing up to that point, it wasn't like sim racing just exploded on the scene because of lockdown. I've been a simmer for 15 years. But that seemed like a weird little turning point in the perception of sim racing, because it was attempting to more. I don't know why, but I think it was that the way that you'd had it was all set up with the stewards. What's your view? Because obviously you're involved with sim racing as a commentator. What's your view on the sim racing growth and that kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, obviously last year, it just, because of what happened with COVID, it exploded. I think it was already getting quite big anyway. Doing Gran Turismo in 2018, I mean, we were doing events in Tokyo and Vegas and Monaco. So the money is there because of you're not actually having to physically be at a track and have marshals at every post and so on. You can put more money into the crew that goes behind it, i.e. the cameras and making a studio. The studio is the track, essentially. So that's where the money goes. So esports has that money of making it. It's very easy to run. You can have a smaller crew and put more crew behind the cameras. But that was another level. They use, I think, the same crew that they used for the 24 hours to film it. There was a lot that went on behind the scenes that I don't think people would have even realized was going on. But there was a whole truck just for race control and making sure that everything was run perfectly. They rehearsed. I commentated on a few things before where they were just making sure that if a red flag was to come out, that everyone knew what the procedure was. So it was treated like a real race, but it got 22.5 million viewers in 24 hours, and because there was nothing else to watch. So I think Motorsport Games, who are involved with that, did a really fantastic job of getting involved in that and helping it put it all together and run it. And since then, I think it's become a pastime for some drivers. They just love getting back in the seat again. There's so much esports now that's going on that's just under the radar. These guys are all out there racing, but they're just, there's loads of small series popping around all over the place. But yeah, it's exploded, and I think it will reach a point where motorsport gets back to normal, where it will die a little bit, but it will continue to grow after that. So yeah, I think the main reason it can grow as much as it can is because the money it can be put into it.
Because I was thinking about this whole Karting1 show, and I've had you're my sixth guest now, and like 3 or 4 of the guys that I've had on, either currently kart or ex-karters, they're all heavily into their simming stuff now, and like it's something I continually talk about. It's hard to talk about because the evidence for correlation is kind of, it's hard to find. But do you think, from your perspective, because you've been heavily involved in karting from as a driver, and then from a media perspective, now you're finding opportunities in a professional sense in the sim racing realm. Do you think kart racing has issues there in terms of sim racing being a threat? Because I don't see sim racing feeding kart racing all that much, because the senior grids, because juniors and cadets do karting because they want to be F1 drivers, because that's parents, and that's a market that seems to flow. But the senior drivers, a lot of them are now buying sims, and I don't think they're going spending a few grand on a sim and then going, I want to do karting. I don't see that.
I mean, I don't think anything beats karting. It's funny enough, a lot of people that 24-hour Le Mans virtual, a lot of the real drivers actually said they were more nervous doing that than any race they've ever done. And that's because you're in your own room. You might have the kids outside, or a dog kicking around, and it's not that environment. With karting, I don't think anything can replace that rolling start, pushing each other across the line. So I don't think it has a threat. It's obviously easy to do. You can do it once you've got your rig. You can go anywhere at any time with a click of a finger and start racing. But I don't think that it has a threat, because it's that feeling of going across the line when the lights go out that cannot be replaced by a sim racing. So I don't think it will.
So like where I think I guess where I'm worried is not so much what's more exciting or more fun. It's like that initial spend, and it's like that initial grand or $2,000 that you put into something. And like at the moment, I'm struggling to see like I call them senior drivers because that's a market that's diminished. Like, how do we sell karting to those people? Because you've been involved in it in that way,
Yeah, I think. Well, one thing we did with the magazine as well, we went to BUKC. I raced in that. They invited me along so I could try the Club 100s. I went and raced in DMAX and did an article on that, and that was to try and open up, like, you don't have to have your own car. These are things you can go and do. DMAX obviously doesn't really exist as a series anymore, but Club 100 is fantastic. And to have, two big YouTubers, Jimmy and Super GT, that go and do that, I think, it's going to be hard to even make that grid now. So I think in terms of people that are involved in esports, influencers can attract people to karting in that sense. And I think once you get someone into Club 100, then all of a sudden they realize, actually, I've reached my level here. Let's try something a little bit better, and let's go call up Jack Dix and jump in an X30 and maybe go and do a club championship at Wilton Mill. So I think esports in a way can help draw people in if they get that racing bug and then they decide they want to go and do it for themselves. Something like Club 100 is there for them to just jump straight in and go. One championship I really love is BUKC, because I commentated on that a couple of times, and everyone turns up in suits that they had 5 years ago that don't go over their ankles anymore, and it's just fantastic to see all these people come together again, get out the old. I remember I was racing there, and a guy that I raced in Formula Kart Stars with still had his Gillard suit on, and it just didn't go past his ankles, and it was like, and that's the fantastic thing about that series, and I think it then drags people back into either arrive and drive or to then go and do club level.
I think BUKC, which is the British Universities Kart Championship for anybody watching outside the UK, it's really great. Competitive. It's like
it is. I mean, I went to the Clay Pigeon final round, and I did the endurance race Friday, and then I did another one on Saturday, and then they said the drivers' champs is on Sunday, which is basically you race against your teammates. It's every man for himself. There's no more endurance involved in it or point scoring, and that was fierce. I mean, I think I got into the A final, but I was in the mid pack, and it was absolutely crazy. I mean, I actually T-boned some guy through the chicane and had to push him sideways till he went off the track so I could carry on. But it was just like the standard of it was so high. I was really, really surprised. And because some of those people were just arrive and drive races that don't have the money, but they're that good, or some of them had just learned it through BUKC. And everyone there has good fun. It's like a mini festival. If anyone ever gets the chance to go to it, they will put their tents up, music blaring, and it's great. It's fun. It's what it should be. But yeah, that's a great championship, and the guys from Alpha do a really good job running that.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things. There's little pockets of cool little culture in karting that, like I always talk about this karting culture thing. It's kind of cool, but we do such a we're very narrow folk. I talk about me. I mean, so I wanted to talk about the future of karting media, I guess, as a platform, and
right,
like, so you've gone through it. I've sort of gone through it. I mean, like I said, now I don't consider myself or Karting1 really a media entity. It's more like I just like karting now and just want to just do stuff, and I'm not really like focused on being a media entity. Where do you see the future direction for the interface, I guess, between, because once upon a time, as you'll know, Karting Magazine was like the interface between someone new to the sport, and then it gave them that sort of something tangible to go, this sport is real. What do you see going forward for like karting in that aspect? Because now it's largely dominated by Facebook groups, Instagram. I think they're really good tools, but at the same time, because they're not curated like a magazine or a website, do you think there's an opportunity there for someone to come in? Is there lessons that can be learnt?
Yeah, well, I mean, from my point of view, the first thing I did when I actually took the magazine on for myself was made it online, because I think doing a monthly magazine, the only problem was karting moves very, very quickly, and two Super One rounds can happen in the space of 2 weeks, and by the time you bring the magazine out, it's all old news. So what I tried to do was have really, really make it online and just articles so we could publish really quickly on the day. I was coming back from B&L race commentating, but reporting on in the car, I was getting a lift back with Joe Turney, funnily enough, and I was just writing a report about the B&L, and him winning it, I think it was that year, and then the news was straight out there. And we also tried to do articles on I remember there was a few if there was ever a big accident, to just get an update on how the person was doing, so people, rather than through a Facebook post, they could actually read about what had happened, and that everything was okay. I think it needs to be online, and it needs to be instant, because people want to read stuff straight away, and then 2 days later it's old news. And that's social media that's created that philosophy within us to make, to not be interested in stuff after a week or two. So but yeah, that, I think it's there. I mean, I got over 1 million hits with it in the year I did it. It was really, really, really good experience. I had to walk away for personal reasons, but I think if someone came back and did something similar, they'd have a lot of success with it, because we had a lot of interest in it, and it opened a lot of doors for me personally. So yeah, I think if it's online and it's quick, I think T-Kart do a good job with their online magazine. Something like that is perfect, really.
Yeah, I do think the potential's there for some sort of young, energetic crew of people to really go, right, yeah. I'm going to go for this. I think it can. It's just that it's a hard trek, to do stuff, because it's like you're convincing people, and it's like a trek. But I do think it doesn't have to be traditional, but there's something there that I feel like I just want something there for me to engage with and not have to create.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be the one that has to go, let's try this. Like I do the budget kart challenge, and that's not me going, I want to do a budget kart challenge. That's me going, right, you bunch of lazy pricks. Someone do something like this so I can watch it and enjoy it like a punter. I don't want to be the one doing it.
Yeah, see, one thing I never really did was good YouTube videos, and I had the chance to probably do quite a lot when I was testing with Tony Kart, for example, or in the F3 car, and that would have been something cool. I think if you can do videos, of course it just takes a little bit of money or someone that's willing to come along and help you film and edit it, but yeah, there's definitely stuff like that to be done, or tutorial videos could be great. I mean, I tested with Callum, Bradshaw, with Tom Wood, with Ben Barnacote. These are people that, those chats I had with them, if recorded, could have been really, really useful, I'm sure, to a lot of people. So yeah, there's room. Karting is a big sport. There's a lot to cover, in terms of arrive and drive, club, national, and then international. That there's so much. I was writing probably 4 articles a day at one stage, because there was just so much to report on. You had grand finals, British champs, Rock the Rio, all going on at the same time, and it's trying to report on everything. So
it's almost like there's too much. It's just what I say to people. There's almost too much. Too much of it. Like I do miss having a. I talk about this. I keep repeating myself. We don't have like a solidifying central. This is it sort of thing. We sort of spread ourselves out a little bit. Whereas, so it's rather than having that cohesive. There's always going to be. I could talk about Supercross a lot, but I could name all the top drive riders, and I know that they're going to be the thing that everybody gets around and has arguments about. Everybody's interested in those drivers, and I guess in our sport, like you've experienced, it's like Rock the Rio, then it's British Champs, then it's BNL, then it's Euromax, and it's like, ooh, this is a lot of graft, rather than having something that you can talk about consistently without having to draw up a list of 20 new names in every article.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, doing the awards demonstrated how hard that was. I had a panel help me do it, and to pick 10 drivers for a driver of the year was so difficult because they all had won probably 3 championships each. And some of, 2 or 3. I think that year there was a couple of those that were either IAME International Finals champions or Grand Finals champions, and then I thought I had my 10, and then someone went and run the Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals. It was like, right, who's going to lose their seat now? Yeah, so getting 10 was really difficult, and I think that just shows just how much there is, because you can't then leave out, supercarts, for example, because that's a whole nother thing in itself. And you've got to credit those guys. So, yeah, trying to include all the best was really hard, but I think that was a good exercise to show these are the 10 that we feel are the best, and then we obviously picked a winner out of those. So, yeah, it was that was something. I think if that could come back, that would be great, because I thought it was really cool, actually.
I think you're on something there. Like, I think. Like I always talk about, the top drivers don't really get any reverence, and
No.
those sort of things I think are weirdly like really valuable, and you kind of, it's easy to like brush over it and not realise, no, that's a cohesive force that gets people talking and looking up to drivers, and those something that the drivers can aim for, and then I mean immediately I'm thinking, right, who was your top 10 this year? Okay, none of these people have raced together. Suddenly we're going,
it was.
Some people are going, well, this kind of be cool if they was able to race together, and it creates a bit of a buzz.
Well, it was, interestingly enough, so when we were doing after the success I had with it, the next year my idea was then, and I was in talks with an indoor circuit down in here in London, and my idea was to do an awards evening at an indoor kart track and say, right, the top 10 drivers of the years, you go out and race each other, and it was to try and get all the best drivers, female, we did that category, but rookies, drivers of the year, international drivers, all in one indoor kart track, and then go out and race each other, and we were going to film it, and it was, rather than putting the suit on and stuff, it was like, get the suit to one side, put a race suit on, and let's have some fun. But yeah, sadly, personal issues for me got in the way of that. But that's something, again, I think not an evening like that. I've hosted a lot of awards for different clubs, but a kind of unified one where we recognize the best drivers, like the Autosport show the Autosport Awards, sorry, would be something that would be great for the sport, I think.
I mean, I'll have a look at that next year. I'll steal that. I'll have to invite you along.
I've sold you my idea. Yeah. Well, I think we were going to have Henry Bodek come and commentate it and host it.
It would be carnage.
And Stu Stratton was going to come, I think, and do all the camera work, and Alpha, the guys at Alpha, I think, were going to come along and film it, and we were going to do reverse grids, pick your grid slot, or do a qualifying and then say, actually now it's a reverse, or drive around the track backwards. And it was I think it was Capital Karts I'd in touch with, and we had the whole place. We were going to have the whole place to ourselves for the whole day. I'm it was it's weird talking about it, because obviously it was a bit of a hard time for me when that didn't go ahead, but yeah, it would have been great, and I think to have something like that would be good, to get all the best together in one room, recognize their achievements, and then go and have some fun after.
So I think talking about it's the first sort of step, I think, to give people the sort of inspiration to go, this is something we can do, like, it sort of pains me on a different level. Like, you go to Kart Masters and you'll have like a stacked Rotax grid and a stacked X30 grid, and I can imagine walking into it from someone that's, say, from doing motocross or bikes, and they're going, that's a 1252 stroke, that's a 1252 stroke. Why is there 2 separate grids?
Yeah, to put those together and you got 40. And I mean, I used to love the fact that you had to qualify to get into Super One. I always thought that was so cool, and it was almost like, I'm on the grid. That's an achievement. And one of the things that actually attracted me to the sport was the Motors TV UK Karting Challenge, because it was just so easy to watch. It was the yellow car is the championship leader. The number is where they are in the championship, and I remember speaking to Alan about that and saying that was brilliant. I'd love to see that back. because as a viewer, I didn't know nothing about the sport. I watched it and I knew, right, number 19 is leading, so that's a really good result for him so far. And then, and then you see the one kart making its way through, and I thought that was an amazing concept. I'd love to see something similar or the same thing come back.
I agree.
That was just awesome.
I think that's for people that are watching that don't remember, like Motors TV Challenge, and I think when it started, it was mainly based at like Three Sisters, Wigan.
Yes,
it
was.
And I think
it
was something like reverse grid from championship order in the final.
That was it. Yeah. So the championship leader started at the back with the yellow pods. And then the person last in the championship was on pole.
But that was brilliant, because from that, like, if you look at the Facebook page, I posted up a video of like Matt Bell talking in the press conference.
And they had the press conferences, which were awesome.
And it was accessible and it was fantastic. Yeah. Like, I think I look back at that and I think we do have like this. If from the outset your series is reverse grids, I've got nothing wrong with that. I don't like reverse grids kind of in F1 because I'm a bit of a Puritan. But like, if you're from the outset, you like, this is who we are from day one. And I thought that series was accessible. You had a lot of characters as well, and you put focus on the championship leader. Whereas I think we've somewhat become very professionalised in kart racing. And professionalised isn't the correct term, actually, but heavily formalised. And I miss that character-driven stuff, which I think, even with, like, I know you're working with... I was going to say on your Super 1 qualifying thing, by the way. I remember that, because I did try and qualify for Super 1 in 96.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, in cadets.
Yeah. Right. Like, I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
It
was proper, because you had Lewis Hamilton, and who else was racing? Chris Rogers. It was after the Nicky Richardson... Mike Spencer era, but yeah, it was proper badass. But like, I've just noticed, like, you did it's Caden McQueen, and he did that interview with Motorsport Radio, and I can see that you're putting the drivers out there. And even though like we don't have, we do have obviously all the races are streamed, and I think Alpha Live have really changed the game. I think it's partly the driver's responsibility to bring in the eyes, bring in viewers, because Alpha Live provide this cost-effective tool to stream races. The drivers, I don't think, realise how valuable that is, but or some of them don't. And I look at the Caden McQueen thing, and I just saw he did that interview, and I'm immediately thinking, oh, Caden's racing. I'll see what he's doing. Oh, he's doing senior Rotax. Oh, I'll watch him, see how he gets on. It's so simple.
Yeah, well, Motorsport Radio I'm really close with them, and it's funny enough. For me, when I was running the magazine, you don't have anyone to interview until they almost come to you. If someone comes to you and says, I'll do, here's my, sells you their story, then all of a sudden you've got a story to work with. So you can make the journalist job really easy by just going out there, selling them your story. And all of a sudden they'll run with it. I mean, even after Callum won the World Championships, we had BBC and ITV News, they didn't we went out to them, and all of a sudden they were like, yeah, we'll run a story on him. Two major news networks sadly got in the way of that interview. But I think drivers, I always recommend, that sometimes I think we see drivers that do drive at Buckmore Park and they make BBC News, but all that person's done is literally gone and sold their story. And people that are they're not intelligent in the sport will just run with it because they think that's the story. So you can easily get yourself out there. You've got to just put yourself out there. One thing I found is through commentating, every driver has their own story, whether they finish first or last. There was a reason they finished last. It was because the chain came off in heat 2, then this happened, and then this happened when I was trying to get on the grid, and so everyone's got a story to tell. And you can be in the bar all night chatting to people about their karting stories, because there's some really, really good ones out there. And that's why I think this show, for example, is great. I mean, listening to Will Dendy's stories. There's so many weird. There was a story that I didn't put in. There was 2 stories that didn't get put in there. I think there was one story where he literally ran about 15 miles because I was testing at Wilton, and I think he wanted a session. He ran 15 miles
from his house to the track, and it was like, what are you doing here, Will? And he says, yeah, I ran here. And I went, you live miles away? He went, yeah. And then he chucked it down with rain, and he's like, I'll go out in the slicks, I don't care. And there was another instance, it was 2009 British Championship at Lark Hall, right? So you got Litchfield, Foster Jones, Ben Cooper, all the big hitters.
Yeah.
Richard Bradley, right? And he's got a warm-up, and he doesn't want to... I think the race tyres are in Parc Ferme or something like that. And all he had in the van was some old knackered rears, Dunlop rears, and his TKM fronts that he had in there. When I say TKM fronts, I mean the old TKMs. So he's KM1 at Lark Hall in warm-up, and you're going, why has he got so much understeer? And then you look closely, and he's got TKM fronts on, like the old.
I mean, yeah.
But those stories,
fair play. Those
stories immediately make you go, interesting. There's something about this guy. Or I remember Mackenzie Taylor that year. I used to talk to him because that was like, it was the second year of KF3 or something, and he'd done Jicker, and he was like, I miss the Jickers, man. I miss the old engines. And me, I'm like, I like Mackenzie. Like, I got on with him.
Yeah.
And suddenly, like, I think drivers don't realise, like, I used to take photos, and I'd look back at my photos that I took, right? And I wasn't like a professional photographer. I was just taking a load of photos for the gallery. 90% of them, I'd be taking photos of drivers that spoke to or knew, just unconsciously. And like I'm revealing, like, I don't call myself a journalist, but like, if drivers knew the influence they had in terms of just chatting to people, having a laugh, stuff can be created from that. And suddenly they're the ones getting their pictures out there, their stories out there, and it builds and it builds. And like, and that's just like base level stuff, Chris, like just chatting to people. Like, I think I said to Danny Curl, I think it would be a great idea. Obviously, whether he takes it up or not, I don't know. But like, my idea was like, this is me like riffing on ideas. I said, buy an eBay KZ. I've just bought myself an old, KZ special off eBay. I want to do the World Championship this year. Let's have a crack on this. See how we get. And I'm thinking, I want to watch that. See how Danny Curl gets on in a KZ on an old Pavesi rotary valve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Suddenly you're like, oh, this is
that.
Interesting. And maybe he brings, I don't know, Scott Allen or Ross Allen, and they have a bit of it. And you're thinking, oh, those guys are interesting because their dad raced at Morecambe, and it's just like it builds and it builds and it builds. And yeah, you get something where we've got a sport to follow. I vibe with this because obviously I know that you've been in the media game, so I guess I'm hoping that like someone like you can appreciate the potential.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you got to take people on that journey with you, and the more you do that, the more they'll support you. And that's one of the first things I say to people when I help them with social media and things. It's people only follow your story because they want to, and you've just got to take them on a journey, and they'll see your progression throughout the year. And the only reason they're looking at your page is because they want to see. And if you take them through the good parts and the bad parts, because a lot of people will miss out the bad weekends from their posts, put those in as well and tell them about it. And then when there's a good one, everyone will go, that's and all of a sudden it looks even better. And I think you've got to take people on a journey with you throughout your whole year, whether you're a driver, a commentator, whatever. People like to see someone make progress.
What you've nailed there, and I couldn't emphasize my agreements more, that there's a weird thing, like sometimes it's the average drivers that are better at media because they're not obsessed by results, they're not burdened by it. But like, people don't. You need peaks and troughs for stories to work. Yeah. Like learning about why, say, Caden had McQueen had a bad weekend. I'd be like, that's really interesting because I rate him really highly, but I'd like to know why it didn't work out for him on a particular weekend. Like, so that's like, I'm immediately thinking, oh, that's mint. I actually do. I remember watching McQueen. PF and some of the moves he was doing, I think it was in Junior X30 around the outside at the first hairpin, were obscene. Like, there's so many little things like that. I'd go, man, I'd love to, and hopefully because you're working with him, you understand the game, we can see more of that, because I to me that's just like the story of when it goes wrong. Like, it's so true. Like, if you don't, people are so scared of it though. They're scared to show weakness. And I'm like, you're not showing weakness. You're showing confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you watch anything. You watch a good TV series or a good film, or they've got things like Britain's Got Talent, X Factor. There's all these ups and downs, and they take you on a journey with someone, and you've got to share all of that to make the highs higher, and I think that's something to do. And it's I always say to drivers, there's something positive in every weekend you do. If you finish dead last by 10 seconds, how much pace or how much closer to the leader did you get in time from heat 1 to the final? Did you make a second? Well, that's what you take away. You don't have to go out there and rant about the guy who fired you off in heat 2. You just say, we made 1 second, chased on the leader, we'll make another next weekend. Bang. That's the story. That's your story from the weekend. But if you get fired off at turn 1, or the kart doesn't start, then that's also one, and people will get behind you the next time you go out, and they'll want to see you do well. Look at Juan Manuel Correa. Had a massive crash. He's now back in F3 this year, and he's going to have the most support on that grid, I think, more than anyone else, because he shared his journey back to the seat publicly. So now everyone's, he's going to be the most supported driver on the grid.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it reminds me, obviously not as severe as the F3 thing, the F2 crash, but I think it's Ryan Norberg, if I've got his name right, and he's an American driver.
He raced. Yeah, he did the Miami International Final one year. I did it. I think he finished second. Yeah,
and he's doing videos at the moment, and he's just basically commentating over his races, right? And he did one recently that went, this is the mistake I made. So I'm watching it going, he's just like me. He's quicker than me, but he's just talking over his race. And he's going, I was pushing here, then I hit the curb, and I got done by 3. And then suddenly I'm going, I'm interested in this guy. I don't know why.
Yeah.
No, I don't care if they win. Yeah. It's not really interesting. But when they're describing their mistakes, it's like the negative. It's not a negativity bias. But it's that kind of, it's not like a dissonance, but it's something that just piques your interest. And I was watching his stuff, and I think he's got potential as well to do more cool stuff as well, because he's sitting at home. I'd like to see him at the track, but that's my own selfish, wants as a viewer. But I was watching it going, he's talking about why he lost the race. I think he finished 4th, he was leading, but you immediately get hooked straight in, Danny Colt one year when he comes second, I think it's Supernats, and I was talking to him about it, and his engine didn't look that great, but that was a story. It's like, I'm interested, So the lessons are there.
If he goes and wins it the next year, it was like, well, he comes so close the year before, his engine let him down. This year it didn't, and I can't remember who it was when I did the IME International Final. I'm not sure if it was Hodgson, but he'd come. He'd had 2 years where he could and should have won it. Things went against him, so that third try, I might be getting the wrong driver, but when he won it that year and won it by 10 seconds, it was like, that's he's had to go through 2 years of pain, and he's kept going, and now he's come out and won one of the biggest races in the world. So publicizing that, people are going to think that win they'll see why it means so much to a driver. If they don't see the bad parts and the struggles you go through to get there, because I've been there as well. The first couple of years, you're going to go through a lot of those, fired off at turn 1, whatever, chain comes off or something. If you don't see those, then when you do win and the emotions there, they won't realize why that means so much to you, that win. Because a win is a win, but if there's been all this stuff that's gone on in the background that's made you get there, then that's why it's so valuable.
I think it sort of speaks to I kind of follow the major championships. I don't know how much you follow them nowadays, but when Iglesias won this year, and it was difficult for me to really watch these major championships because I don't really know much about the drivers. And I know Lammers is the driver that I know about, because he's obviously deaf, and that's an interesting story for a number of reasons. He won the 09 Supernats when I was there, so I've always sort of supported what he did. I kind of like him as a character. I think he's a really good ambassador for karting. Yeah, he's nicest bloke. But I'm finding it tough to engage with it so much, and I guess it's me pleading with the drivers, and I'm like, come on guys, sort me out. I want to follow some drivers. The opportunity's there. Just you can do it, and it doesn't have to be like boring stuff. Like, I did a race this weekend and I finished 8th. Like, you do test karts, you do loads of cool stuff. I just don't think people realise they do.
I mean, that paddock is different world. I mean, I'm sure you've been to a couple of races, and it's just it's unbelievable. I mean, the first race I did was at Sarno. And I mean, obviously, the hotel being at the track is quite cool in itself. But Nico Rosberg turned up, and he was like, the smile on his face was, he did a video about it, and he turned up, and he's like, "This is it. This is where, the next people that are, going to be on the, in F1 say this is the kind of area they're going to come from, it, and not even, but this is where the top KZ drivers are in the world, and it's that world. It just blew me away completely." The size of the awnings, even, massive. Tony can't have 2, like one just for hospitality. And it's that world. They're all in their own little bubble. It's like something like F1. They all travel round together, and it's I mean, following something like that would be cool. To see what the drivers get up to would be cool. So I'd say
you don't see anything beyond the race,
because they're testing all the time. They'll be there for 10 days, and just like, what do they get up to in between the races? I've heard drivers telling me what they get up to, and it's like, that's quite cool, but you don't really see a lot of it. But it's
maybe that's why. That's hopefully with these videos it sparks a bit of interest in. I just think, like, if there's a youth revolution in kart racing, if the 18 to 13 market, if they realised, like, because I think a lot of drivers, they get a bit they move the cars and they'll go that route, or they kind of go university, and it's sort of like, it's hard to keep onto that little group of drivers that you think, oh man, if they really knew how cool what they were doing is,
they earn a living from it. If you're a factory driver, you're earning your living kart racing. And like, if you tell someone that, they wouldn't believe you, because they think kart racing is, go down team sport or something. Like, that's what they see it as. But that's how they earn their living, and then that's their job. And for some of these guys, they get moved out to Italy and they get based there at the factory, and they live there, and they travel around with the team. And that's anyone's dream job, isn't it? So I think some kart drivers forget that could be something. I mean, Joe Turney is a perfect example. Didn't really have a lot of financial support behind him, but he managed to become a Tony Kart factory driver. Harley Keeble, the same thing. He had. I remember commentating on him at FKS, and they were running on hardly anything. And now, through the help of Ollie Rowland, I think, and just his talent of how he went and won the British champs, he's there. And I think Ollie Rowland's has to have a shout out, because he's doing an amazing job supporting the kart drivers to get to factory level now. And
I think that's kind of something very significant there. Like, we it's like, I was speaking to a driver, and a driver's dad, and it's particularly drivers' dads that get disappointed sometimes. And I'm saying, but if you race at international level, you're at the highest levels of the sport. It doesn't get any better than that. You're
getting paid, and then, I mean, what driver wouldn't want to get driver coached by Danny Curl? And how much could he make now being a driver coach? And where could that take him around the world? He might go and do the Florida Winter Tour with a driver because they want him as the driver coach. I see Lorenzo Travis-Nuto's tried to start his own race program, and that's a great idea for him because he's a 2 times world champion.
It's mad.
So I mean, that's. Do you want to go and do a couple years flirting with Ginettas, or do you want to get to the top level of karting and earn your living?
How amazing would it be if the shift in karting was everyone just like, I want to be a works driver.
Yeah,
I want to be the number one in the Britain, or number one in karting.
I mean, that was my goal personally as well when I was doing it. I really wanted to be a works driver, and so when I got to go and test with Tony Kart, it was a bit of a dream come true. It was crazy.
But there's a lesson there, Chris. The lesson for drivers, in my view, is you've been hit by a condition that was out of your control. Yeah. Right. So, in any stretch of the imagination, you've been dealt a really bad hand. Then a few years later, you've managed to arrange it where you're testing with, OTK. In the context of being a journalist or whatever, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You're testing with the best in the world.
Yeah.
And the chances of you having that opportunity prior to that
Zero.
were probably not zero.
Not zero, but very low.
They were low, but the thing is, it's like that drive that you had. I guess that, mind you, the drive that you had probably led you to that regardless of whatever was going to happen. Like, maybe. Whether you were struck down or not. I think when you have that kind of drive that early, it kind of manifests itself in those sort of opportunities anyway.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it all started after I got diagnosed at Wilton in 2012. I was just starting college at the time, and I was doing TV and film there. And I went back to Wilton the next month to say sort of hello to everyone. And I was like, I can't leave the sport. Like, I can't do it. So I went back to my college and said, can I borrow some cameras and go and film at a kart track? Because the club racing I had was amazing. I mean, I had a race with Henry Eastope, who was under 18 world champion, where I'd done him at the last corner, last lap. And it was like, I wish I could watch that back. So I was like, we need to get club racing film. So I took the cameras to Wilton and we filmed it. It was called WMKC TV. I mean, it had no commentary on to start with. Very basic. I mean, the first race we ever did, my mate forgot to press record up at turn 3. So I was like, we're not off to a good start. But yeah, that's how I started it really. And then I started recording over the top of those, commentating over the top, and then I mean, Alpha Live obviously eventually went on and did the same thing, and they do it a lot better. But
the point was, you did something.
Yeah.
And doing something is like worth way more than doing nothing and being paralysed by sort of perfection. Like long before you get something perfected, someone else has already started and done 90% of the work and are way ahead of you. And no matter how good what you're doing is, you're going to struggle to catch them. Yeah, because they've already they just go in head first and just do it. You know, and but the thing is that kind of decision leads you to Italy. Yeah. And it's like people go, how did you end up testing for Tony Kart? And you're like, well, I got epilepsy, diagnosed with it. I wanted to stay in karting. I filmed some club racing. Yeah. Tony Kart. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
like it's something. Yeah.
I mean, it was a cool experience. I mean, my first race my first live race was Kart Masters. Henry couldn't do it, and they were like, "Do you want to come and do it?" And I hadn't commentated live before. I was at Wilton trying to commentate, but the PA system was down. I said to Wilton when I left college, I can keep commentating, but I can't film anymore. So I went to Kart Masters, and it was crazy. I mean, it was funny. The guy gave me the microphone and said, "You're live," and I just didn't know what to do. I was so nervous. I didn't even turn the microphone on. He came back about 5 minutes later. He's like, "We can't hear you. Is everything all right?" And he says, "Oh, that's the problem. You haven't turned the microphone on." So I said, "Oh, I thought I was speaking to myself."
See, I wouldn't last 5 minutes on the mic because I'd start swearing and they'd be like, "Okay, you get off." Yeah. Like, no. I'd be too tempted to start just.
It was so difficult. I mean, I say to anyone now, if commentating is a thing for you, the karting is the best place to start, just because of how fast paced it is, and you've got to learn.
And you have to learn a lot of names. Like, I'm always impressed by how many. It's not like you're commentating on one sport with a grid of 20 drivers. It's like 150 drivers.
Oh yeah.
And almost every weekend it's a new batch of drivers. It's not the same.
Yeah, you've got to go around and ask them. I mean, I just cross their name out and write it how to pronounce it. It's like, how do you pronounce your name? I did a race in Austria and I had to walk down the grid like, I don't know how to say any of these names, and they all just were like, "I'll just call him Jay or Alan or something."
It's Trev, it's Keith.
Yeah, they were like, "Yeah, just call him JJ." I was like, "Oh, okay, that's better." That's one thing you've got to do is try and learn how to say these names, because if you get them wrong, it's because I got Reggie Dewey's name wrong for 2 years, and his mum collared me at Wilton. And was like,
what were you calling him?
I think it was Doohee. She eventually saw that I was the guy commentating. She was like, "You've been saying it wrong for 2 years." After that, I was like, "I'm never making that mistake again," because that's terrible.
He's another good driver. This is the thing, you just throw out these names. I'm like, yeah, I know Reggie. I watch him carefully. He's a
great character. Great character for the sport as well. And there's loads of those around. So it's I think the guys should be out there marking themselves even more than they do now.
Yeah. So how would a driver? Because I know you're working with drivers. If you've got any spots open, have you got like a way for them to get in contact with you? Because I think I like what you're doing. You know, you're getting these drivers doing stuff.
Yeah, just through social media even is fine. Just I work with probably 6 or 7 now, and I've worked with a few others in the past. Ollie Caldwell, working with him was great when he was obviously doing F3 now. But yeah, people can just get in touch on social media if they want to help, and it's just something I do to keep busy in the week, really. So it's I'm happy to work with anyone at any level, even if it's just arrive and drive or club level. So
I think it's great for the sport. Anyway, like, because I think I think you appreciate the level of skill involved in top flight karting, and I think over time we'll see karting become have a bit more about itself. The drivers should feel like they are. I don't know. Maybe I'm just projecting, but I think over time, I think it's going to have a massive beneficial effect. So, thanks for coming on, Chris.
No worries.
Been great to chat, mate. It's nice. It's nice. I appreciate it. It's a different angle to talk about the sport. Do you know what I mean? And thanks for coming on, mate.
Yeah, no, I miss commentating in it, but I still enjoy watching it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it again this year, definitely.